Let's simplify an exponential expression. Lots of things being multiplied, and we're going to specify that this cannot have negative exponents. So we're going to do this without negative exponents. So there's a few different ways to do this. I'm going to show you one of my personal favorites because it's easiest to explain, in my opinion. I got an x z to the fifth. That thing's untouched because it has no powers. Now I'm going to use the distributive property for exponentiation through multiply and divide to use that -2 exponent on each one of the entries down below. So we would have x to the -1, -1 times -2, which would be x squared, because the rule for power to power would be multiplying the powers. U to the power of 2 to the power of -2 would again multiply 2 and -2 to give you -4. The 2 is understood to be to the first power because it has no exponent. 1 times -2 is -2, so here we're going to have a 2 to the -2. And then finally we have z squared to the -2, which would become a z to the -4. Okay. Then, in the next stage, we're going to combine things by moving them to the top or the bottom. I don't know. Let's do this one by combining initially. So, when I perform this, I can see that I have an x to the power of 1 and an x squared, and 1 plus 2 would be 3. Notice they're both on top, so they're just being multiplied, and thus we use the product rule of adding exponents. Z to the fifth and z to the -4th are being divided because one is on top and one is on bottom. So the rule for that is to subtract exponents from our division rule. So z to the fifth over z to the -4th would be z to the 5 minus -4, which would just be 9. So we get a z to the 9th. U is effectively untouched, so since u was not touched, let's just call that u to the -4. And there are no other 2's, so I'm going to call that 2 to the -2. Now you might be able to combine those on your own if you wish, but I'm going to do it in a separate stage here, so that way I get my final answer of being x cubed, z to the 9th. The u is raised to a -4 power, so that means it will become a u to the 4th in the denominator. Negative exponents flip things to the other side of the fraction line because they represent reciprocal. The 2 to the -2, well, 2 squared is just 4, but again, the negative exponent is going to cause that 4 to not be in the bottom where it is now, but to actually be moved up to the top. And so the final answer is 4x cubed z to the 9th over u to the 4th. Try this one on your own, and assuming you paused the video and tried it on your own, I'm going to do it all in the same kind of details that I did last time. So I have x to the -2, z to the 6th. I'm distributing my exponent through to give me 2 to the -3, x to the -6, y to the -3, over z to the +3. Next, combining the two x's, since they're both on top, they're being multiplied. So multiply means to add exponents, and -2 plus -6 is -8. For the z's, I have a 6 on the top and a 3 on the bottom. Division means to subtract, so z to the 6 minus 3, which is 3. And since y and 2 are lonesome, I'm just going to rewrite them for now and take care of the negative exponents in the next stage. Next stage, final stage, x to the -8 means x to the 8, but in the denominator, because it reciprocates to the bottom. Z cubed, z is a positive exponent, so I leave that on top. 2 cubed is 8, but that's going to be shifted down to the bottom due to the negative exponent. And here we have a y cubed, but just like the 8 and the x, this will also be shifted down to the bottom due to the negative exponent. So the final answer is z cubed over 8 times x to the 8th times y cubed.